Welcome back. Lincoln currency in the vast world of coin collecting, where copper and zinc can turn to gold in the eyes of collectors. One coin from the year 2000 has captured the attention of enthusiasts, investors, and curious minds alike. The 2000 Lincoln cent, often dismissed as common change in pockets and jars, has become a topic of fascination, speculation, and even disbelief due to wild claims that certain varieties or rare specimens of this otherwise ordinary penny may be worth hundreds, thousands, or even, as some reports dramatically assert, $231 million. But to understand how a coin that cost just 1 cent to make could ever stir such interest, we must travel into its design, its creation, its errors, its composition, and ultimately, into the psychology of value itself. Let's begin with the coin in its simplest, most familiar form. The 2000 Lincoln cent weighs exactly 2.5 grams. This weight is a direct consequence of its core composition, 97.5% zinc with a thin plating of 2.5% copper. This zinc core composition was first introduced in 1982, replacing the original solid bronze alloy that had been used for decades prior. Though the coin appears coppery in color, the truth is, what you see is only skin deep. Beneath the thin outer layer of copper lies a silvery core of zinc. This change, driven by cost-saving measures in the 1980s, reflected rising metal prices and inflationary concerns at the U.S. Mint, but also marked a turning point in the tactile and chemical nature of the coin. Stamped on the obverse side of the 2000 Lincoln cent is a familiar face to every American, Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. The profile, facing to the right, is a stoic rendering originally sculpted by Victor David Brenner in 1909, commemorating Lincoln's centennial birthday. His initials, VDB, can be found just below Lincoln's shoulder, subtly embedded in the coin's field, a tribute to a designer whose work has survived over a century of monetary and political change. This enduring image remains one of the longest-running coin portraits in U.S. history. The design is a constant reminder of Lincoln's enduring legacy, emancipation, Civil War leadership, and democratic preservation, yet it has also undergone stylistic and technological evolution behind the scenes to adapt to modern minting techniques. Above Lincoln's head are the words, "In God We Trust," a motto adopted in the 1950s and a reflection of the country's cultural climate during the Cold War era. To the left, the word "liberty" appears, a powerful reminder of the principles Lincoln fought and died for. On the right is the year, 2000. Some examples of this date carry a tiny mint mark, either D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, but many, like the one we are discussing, bear no mint mark, signifying Philadelphia mint origin, as the mint mark for Philadelphia is typically omitted on cents. Turning the coin over, the reverse side depicts the Lincoln Memorial, introduced in 1959 to replace the earlier wheat ears design. The memorial design was created by Frank Gasparo, who was then the assistant engraver of the mint and would go on to become chief engraver. This architectural monument, based in Washington, D.C., is not just a tribute to Lincoln but an emblem of unity and national reverence. A tiny detail sometimes overlooked is that, if examined under magnification, the seated figure of Lincoln is visible between the columns, an exquisite example of micro-engraving long before the term became a modern digital buzzword. Above the building sits the phrase, "United States of America," and just beneath it, the powerful declaration, "E pluribus unum," meaning, out of many, one. At the very bottom, across the base of the memorial, is the denomination, 1 cent. Despite the billions of these coins produced, the denomination remains a formal assertion of value, backed by the U.S. Treasury and, symbolically, by the full faith and credit of the government. But here is where things take a turn into the extraordinary. While the overwhelming majority of these coins are only worth a cent, or slightly more in melted metal value for older compositions, there exist a few key varieties of the 2000 Lincoln cent that have stunned collectors and sparked incredible market attention. One of these varieties is known as the 2000 wide AM reverse. In this variation, the spacing between the letters A and M in America is noticeably wider than usual. To the casual observer, this seems trivial, but in the world of numismatics, such a variety signals a possible transitional or misused die. These wide AM coins were actually minted using a proof reverse die intended for special collector coins. Due to a mishap or oversight at the mint, a few of these dies were accidentally used on regular business strikes. The result, a few thousand or possibly tens of thousands of 2000 wide AM Lincoln cents were released into circulation. Today, these can sell for anywhere between $20 and $700 depending on condition, with pristine examples, graded MS67 or higher, commanding even higher prices. A small change in typography turned into a golden opportunity for sharp-eyed collectors. Even rarer, though far more elusive, is the Cheerios 2000 Lincoln cent. This coin was part of a promotional release included in specially marked boxes of Cheerios cereal during a U.S. Mint marketing campaign to promote the release of the new Sacagawea dollar coin. About 10 million 2000 dated Lincoln cents were included in these boxes, and most are ordinary in every way. However, a very small number exhibit subtle die enhancements or characteristics that differ from standard strikes. Though no drastic price difference has been confirmed for the Cheerios Lincoln cents compared to the Cheerios Sacagawea dollars, which are far more valuable, it's nonetheless an important footnote in the story of how ordinary items of daily life can intersect with numismatic history. Now, to the question that has brought us here: can a 2000 Lincoln cent be worth $231 million? The short answer is no, at least not in the literal, monetary sense. This claim, which has been circulated through social media videos, viral posts, and sensationalist websites, is part of a broader phenomenon in which misinformation, misinterpretation, or pure fantasy is repackaged as fact. No verified auction house, grading service, or numismatic authority has ever documented a 2001 cent coin selling for such an amount. In fact, if a coin were ever to reach that figure, it would be front-page news across global financial media. Still, there is a deeper truth behind the exaggeration. Coins can indeed become shockingly valuable under the right circumstances. Double dies, off-center strikes, transitional metals, misplaced mint marks, and experimental planchets, all of these features can elevate a humble cent to extraordinary worth. The record sale for a Lincoln cent remains with the 1943 D bronze planchet penny, which sold for over $1.7 million in a private sale. Compared to that, a $231 million valuation seems astronomically absurd, but the mystery and allure remain. Adding to the intrigue is the enormous production number of 2000 Lincoln cents. Over 14 billion were minted across all facilities, making it one of the most mass-produced coins in U.S. history. Ironically, its very ubiquity is what makes it so fascinating to collectors. In that massive sea of copper-plated zinc, the possibility of finding an anomaly becomes an adventure. It becomes a lottery of observation, patience, and detail, a game played not with tickets, but with magnifying glasses and reference books, and that brings us to the role of third-party grading services like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, which have helped shape and define the modern coin marketplace. For a 2000 Lincoln cent to achieve a market value beyond its face, it must not only contain a recognized variety or error but must also be preserved in exceptional condition. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with MS, mint state, indicating a coin that has never been circulated. A 2000 wide AM in MS67 or MS68 can command hundreds or even low thousands of dollars, depending on the market at the time of sale. For collectors and investors alike, these coins offer a way to speculate on quality, rarity, and demand in a niche yet enduring market, but the psychological element of collecting cannot be understated. To many, the thrill lies not just in the monetary value, but in the chase. The possibility of finding a rare variation in a handful of pocket change connects people to history, economics, design, and sometimes even destiny. Children find coins in cereal boxes and imagine treasure. Retirees sort through decades-old rolls in search of doubled dies. Young YouTubers make viral videos hyping values into the stratosphere, and viewers begin to believe in the magic of modern-day alchemy. As more collectors delve into the fine details of coins they once overlooked, the story of the 2000 Lincoln cent becomes a symbol of an often underestimated truth: value is not just what something is made of, it's what people believe it represents. And when belief intersects with rarity, demand, and a dash of mythology, something extraordinary happens. The penny, once the lowest form of monetary expression, becomes a potential gateway into a world of unexpected wealth or legacy. There is also a story beneath the surface of minting technology, one that helps explain how such variations and errors come to be. The United States Mint uses massive, high-pressure machinery to strike billions of coins each year. A die, which is essentially a steel stamp, is engraved with the coin's design and is pressed into metal blanks called planchets. Over time, dies can deteriorate, misalign, or become filled with grease, causing visual anomalies that can show up in coinage. Some of these anomalies are mechanical and have no added value, but others are diagnostic of rare processes or mint errors that collectors obsessively seek. The wide AM variety of the 2000 Lincoln cent is a result of the reverse die meant for proof coins mistakenly used on business strikes. Normally, the letters A and M in America are close together in circulation strikes, while proof versions exhibit a clearly wider spacing. The result is a visually detectable trait that marks a coin not necessarily intended to exist. In some ways, these are mint-made mistakes, but in numismatics, a mistake often equals a miracle. There is also the matter of what's known as double die coins, where the coin's image appears to have been struck twice due to a misalignment in the die-making process. Though the 2000 Lincoln cent is not commonly associated with a significant double die, the existence of earlier and later double dies, such as the legendary 1955 Lincoln cent, keeps collectors inspecting each coin for even the slightest doubling of letters or numbers. The more dramatic the doubling, the higher the value, with some double dies selling for thousands depending on grade and visibility. Modern technology has only further ignited the fire of coin hunting. With high-resolution smartphone cameras, USB microscopes, and online marketplaces, nearly anyone can join the treasure hunt. What used to require a magnifying glass and strong lighting can now be done with apps and digital databases. PCGS Photograde, NGC Census, and various error coin communities on forums like CoinTalk and Reddit have turned numismatics from a specialist's hobby into a movement of everyday explorers, digging through spare change with hope. The 2000 Lincoln cent sits at the intersection of this democratization of collecting, a mass-produced coin that's become a focal point of mass curiosity. In this context, it's not surprising that outrageous rumors like the $231 million cent began to circulate. These viral claims often start on social media platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, or YouTube Shorts, where short-form videos assert that a seemingly common coin has an astronomically inflated value. A dramatic voiceover, quick flashes of a coin's image, and an appeal to urgency, check your coins now, are the formula. While these posts generate engagement, clicks, and ad revenue, they rarely present verified facts. There has never been a 2000 Lincoln cent authenticated by any grading service that sold for anywhere near such a price. These inflated values are part hoax, part fantasy, and part the reflection of a collective yearning for sudden transformation, a dream that a penny could change a life, and yet, the kernel of truth is what keeps people engaged. Coins have, in the past, surprised even seasoned collectors and experts. New varieties are still being discovered, sometimes decades after minting. Coins thought worthless have turned out to be errors or transitional pieces worth thousands. This is part of the strange and thrilling uncertainty in coin collecting. What might today look ordinary could tomorrow become revolutionary. Even beyond numismatics, the penny holds symbolic power. In a world increasingly dominated by digital transactions, the physicality of the coin represents tangibility, heritage, and history. The Lincoln cent is perhaps the most circulated coin in American history. Billions of fingers have passed it from hand to hand. It has been dropped on sidewalks, lost in couch cushions, pressed into souvenir machines, flattened on train tracks, flipped in decisions, and tossed into wishing fountains. It has funded gumballs and parking meters, taught children math, and been gathered in charitable drives. In many ways, it is the most human coin in American circulation. It's ordinary yet intimate. It's history in your hand, and yet, despite its emotional resonance, the penny is dying. The United States has long debated eliminating the cent due to production costs, which now exceed the coin's face value. It costs nearly 2.72 cents to mint a single 1-cent coin. In recent years, countries like Canada, Australia, and New Zealand have phased out their lowest denomination coins, opting to round prices to the nearest 5 cents. Economists argue that eliminating the penny would save millions in taxpayer dollars and reduce inefficiency. Lawmakers have proposed bills to end production, and the U.S. Mint has studied alternative compositions, but no final decision has been enacted. The 2000 Lincoln cent, then, exists at a strange inflection point, a symbol of mass production in the 20th century, and perhaps a relic of obsolescence in the 21st. If and when the penny is discontinued, it's likely that certain years and varieties will gain new historical significance. Coins like the 2000 wide AM or even pristine, high-grade examples of regular strikes will become more desirable as part of completed date sets. Much like discontinued cars or retired postage stamps, scarcity is not always about low mintage, it's about halted existence. Once no more are made, even the most abundant coins become finite. In this way, coin value is as much about cultural context as it is about metallic content. A penny's worth may not lie in zinc and copper, but in story, in rarity, and in recognition. Coins connect generations. A grandparent passes a set to a child, who continues the legacy. A collector finds a rare error and traces its origin back to a forgotten corner of mint production. A coin becomes not only money but message, etched with history, mottos, and ideals. Now, more than ever, this tradition is bolstered by a modern ecosystem. Grading companies authenticate and encapsulate coins, online auction sites provide global markets, and YouTubers educate millions with in-depth analysis and dramatic finds. The coin community is vast, diverse, and thriving. People from every background participate, from casual weekend searchers to elite numismatic investors. And every one of them, at some point, picks up a penny and wonders if it's the one. The 2000 Lincoln cent, in all its varieties and variations, represents a remarkable chapter in this long narrative. Whether it's a wide AM, a Cheerios promotion coin, or a simple, unassuming cent with perfect luster, it invites us to look closer. What we see as pocket change may be priceless in the right context. It may not be worth $231 million in actual currency, but the value it has generated, in interest, in stories, in shared wonder, is arguably just as profound. And as the numismatic world continues to grow, the 2000 cent remains a fixture, not because it's the rarest, nor because it's the oldest, but because it reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry the heaviest weight of history and imagination. For every person who has ever said, "It's just a penny," there is another who has flipped it over, squinted at the letters, and found a doorway into something deeper, something that connects the past, the present, and the possible. What often gets lost in the conversation about coin collecting is that it's not just about money, it's about the stories, the connections, and the moments of discovery that become embedded in each piece. The 2000 Lincoln cent may not be rare in number, but it's become rare in significance. To hold a coin that has sparked debates, inspired myths, and stirred global curiosity is to hold more than copper-plated zinc. It's to hold a fragment of time, one that continues to echo in the imagination of collectors, historians, and everyday people alike. That echo is precisely what fuels so many of the claims and rumors that surround coins like this one. Take the alleged $231 million value often attached to the 2000 penny in YouTube videos, blogs, or short-form content. These claims, as fantastical as they may be, don't originate from nothing. There's usually a kernel of truth or a whisper of misunderstanding that spirals into something much larger. Sometimes, a penny is misattributed as part of a unique error class. Other times, values from fantasy auctions or misprinted online listings are misquoted. There have even been rare cases where someone sets an astronomical, by now, price on eBay, not expecting anyone to pay it, but viewers unfamiliar with coin markets interpret the listing as gospel. These misperceptions travel quickly. A few thousand shares later, and suddenly a billion pennies in circulation each seem like they could change someone's life. It's not hard to understand why. In uncertain times, people seek miracles in the mundane. The idea that you might have overlooked a treasure sitting in your jar of loose change is compelling, almost spiritual. And when a piece of internet media tells you to go check your pocket, and flashes a photo of a coin with a dramatic background, the seed is planted. The average person becomes a temporary investigator, a treasure hunter. The moment a rumor reaches enough screens, reality blurs into possibility, and possibility into belief. Whether that belief leads to knowledge or confusion depends on what happens next, but the reality, grounded in data and history, reveals a more disciplined picture. The U.S. Mint, especially in the modern era, operates with extreme quality control. While the 19th and early 20th centuries were filled with dramatic minting errors due to the more manual nature of production, today's errors are often subtle and extremely rare. The 2000 wide AM reverse was not meant to be created, it was an accident, an unintended crossover of a proof die into the business strike process. That event alone is noteworthy not just for its rarity but for what it represents, a slip in the mechanical and human systems meant to standardize production. That slip gave birth to a variety that has now become one of the most sought-after modern cent variants. Interestingly, the actual number of 2000 wide AM cents in existence is still unknown. Some estimate fewer than 5,000 exist in high grade. Others speculate more are sitting, unrecognized, in circulation. Unlike older errors that have been combed over for decades, modern varieties still hold the possibility of discovery. And this is where the 2000 Lincoln cent maintains its relevance. It is not entirely picked clean. It is not fully sorted. It still holds secrets. Collectors use powerful tools to hunt these secrets. Some use microscopes to examine the spacing of letters, looking for the telltale gap between A and M. Others examine the die markers, tiny die scratches, mint mark positioning, or rim anomalies, that differentiate a regular coin from a rare one. These diagnostics are essential in verifying authenticity, especially in a world where altered or fake coins can appear on the secondary market. Reputable grading services like PCGS, NGC, and ANAC serve as the bulwarks of legitimacy in this space. Their encapsulation process involves photographing, cataloging, and certifying a coin's condition and variety, removing ambiguity from the equation. Still, even with grading standards in place, values fluctuate. A coin that sells for $900 one year might drop to $400 the next if more examples enter the market or if interest shifts. Like all collectibles, coin prices are subject to trends. And while some coins, such as the 1909 SVDB Lincoln cent or the 1914 D, have maintained high value over the decades, modern varieties like the 2000 wide AM are more sensitive to collector awareness and social media cycles. One viral post can drive up demand overnight. One dismissive article can flatten it. Beyond varieties, there's also the nuance of mint marks and the cities behind them. Philadelphia, which produced most 2000 Lincoln cents, typically omits its mint mark from pennies. This is a long-standing tradition. Denver coins, however, bear a small d, and San Francisco coins, mainly proofs, carry an S. Each mint has its own history, facilities, and personnel. Sometimes, even these slight differences can lead to interesting variations. Coins minted in different cities can vary in strike strength, surface quality, or die longevity. Over time, collectors begin to develop preferences for certain mints, years, or even mint-specific error types. For example, Denver errors are often prized due to the sharpness of strikes and stronger die impressions, while Philadelphia coins sometimes feature more unique anomalies due to their high-volume production. This level of detail is what separates casual interest from expert obsession. And in the middle ground between the two, a thriving collector market continues to grow. Coin shows, coin clubs, online auctions, and Facebook groups bring people together who might otherwise never cross paths. A teacher in Ohio may be bidding against a retiree in Arizona for the same high-grade 2000 wide AM cent. A teenager may have just found one and is sharing photos on Reddit, asking for advice. This digital era community keeps the world of coins vibrant, ever-changing, and inclusive. At the center of this community stands the penny. Not the most valuable coin. Not the most beautiful coin. But the most familiar coin. And perhaps, paradoxically, the most mysterious. Because when billions are made, anomalies are inevitable. And when those anomalies are understood, classified, and hunted, a market emerges that elevates the mundane into the magnificent. Still, even with all the fact-checking and clarity, the story of the 2000 Lincoln cent remains tangled in mythology. The $231 million rumor persists, not because it's true, but because it appeals to something true inside us. That desire for luck. That hope for a breakthrough. That thrill of surprise. People know, intellectually, that no cent has sold for hundreds of millions. But they still look. Because coins like this are symbols. Not just of economic value, but of opportunity. And in a world that often feels out of control, the idea that you might stumble on a hidden treasure, a 1 in a billion coin, is deeply compelling. Even economists recognize this phenomenon. Behavioral economics has long studied how people perceive value differently when effort or chance is involved. The endowment effect, prospect theory, and the gambler's fallacy all play roles in coin hunting. People overvalue what they own. They believe they're due for a win. They interpret randomness as pattern. And so, a copper-colored coin becomes more than it is, wrapped in emotion, theory, and personal dreams. As we move deeper into the life and lore of the 2000 Lincoln cent, it becomes increasingly clear that what started as a simple unit of currency has evolved into something far more complex. The penny, especially the 2000 dated version, is no longer just a coin. It is a mirror reflecting shifts in public consciousness, manufacturing, policy, and even our collective imagination. This single cent has become the subject of myths, debates, and hopes. It lives in drawers, in collections, in jars of forgotten change, and in the corners of online coin forums where pixelated photos and magnified die markers are scrutinized like archaeological relics. Beyond the mythology and internet hype, however, lies a very real and measurable issue: the economics of minting a coin worth less than it costs to produce. According to U.S. Mint reports, it costs more than twice the face value to make and distribute each penny. That means that every 2000 Lincoln cent still in circulation today represents a tiny, ongoing loss in economic efficiency. And yet, despite being a financial paradox, the coin continues to be minted, accepted, and spent. The public's relationship with the penny is not just fiscal, it is emotional. And that emotion has a market effect. Public sentiment toward the penny is curiously divided. On one hand, millions of people complain about the inconvenience of handling pennies. Cashiers hate counting them. Consumers often toss them aside. Businesses sometimes round transactions to the nearest nickel. Vending machines rarely accept them. Economists call it the coin nobody wants. And yet, polls have repeatedly shown that a majority of Americans want to keep it. Why? Nostalgia. Tradition. A sense that eliminating it would somehow remove a link to the past, to childhood, to simpler times. The penny is often the first coin a child sees, collects, or saves. It becomes a symbol of learning value, of first purchases, of allowance jars and piggy banks. And that symbolic power resists even the most rational policy arguments. For coin collectors, that symbolism becomes personal. The 2000 Lincoln cent, especially its rare variants, occupies a unique place in the hobby. It's not too old, so it feels accessible. It's not too new, so it carries the weight of 2 centuries. And it sits right at the edge of a technological transformation in minting. The year 2000 marked the beginning of a new millennium, and with it came changes in die-making technology, digital engraving, and the early stirrings of modern automated mint quality control. That makes the 2000 cent a kind of transitional artifact, a snapshot of the mint at a turning point between analog craftsmanship and digital precision. What's more fascinating is how institutional frameworks affect the value of something so small. Auction houses, grading services, and dealers have the power to validate or dismiss the importance of a particular coin. The moment a rare variety is confirmed, the market adjusts instantly. Listings change. Price guides update. Bidders compete. This entire process can happen in days, sometimes hours, thanks to the speed of information online. And once a coin's value is confirmed at auction, it becomes a kind of benchmark, solidifying its place in the hierarchy of modern US coinage. This has certainly been the case with the 2000 wide AM variety, which has carved out a legitimate niche in the market, but not all valuable coins are born from mint errors or varieties. Some are valuable simply because of condition. A 2000 Lincoln cent in MS69 red condition, virtually flawless, with brilliant luster and no marks visible even under magnification, can fetch hundreds or more, even without a variety label. This underscores an important truth in numismatics: sometimes value lies not in rarity of type, but in rarity of quality. Billions of 2000 cents exist, but only a handful are perfectly preserved. And that preservation often happens by accident. Someone pulls a coin from circulation, saves a roll, or forgets a sealed mint bag in storage. Years later, that decision becomes valuable. There's also a philosophical tension at the heart of this: how something so common can still be rare. It's a paradox. If 14 billion of something exist, how can it be worth anything? But scarcity isn't always about total quantity, it's about condition, context, and collectability. There are fewer 2000 wide AM cents in pristine mint state than there are collectors who want them. That imbalance between supply and demand is where value lives. Not in metal. Not in number. But in desire. It's that same desire that fuels viral rumors, like the infamous $231 million penny myth. Most viewers know it can't possibly be true, but they don't care. They click anyway. They imagine anyway. That act of imagining is not meaningless. In fact, it fuels interest in numismatics. It drives people to pull out old jars, to Google dive varieties, to join online groups, to ask questions. Even the wrong question can lead to the right discovery. And sometimes a myth leads someone into a genuine appreciation of the hobby, where they learn, research, and eventually uncover real treasures, not just monetary, but historical. In that sense, even false beliefs contribute to real markets. A rumor spreads. A video trends. Suddenly there's a spike in eBay searches for 2000 Lincoln cent rare. Sellers capitalize. Buyers speculate. Forums light up with commentary. Real knowledge is shared alongside misinformation. The result is a swirling economy of attention, value, education, and hope. It's chaotic, yes. But it's also alive, and what better coin to represent that chaos and life than the penny, a coin that has outlived every attempt to eliminate it, that has survived wars, recessions, redesigns, and digital transitions. It is a coin that costs more than it's worth to make, and yet is worth far more than it costs to own. It is an icon of contradiction. And in that contradiction lies its staying power. Every so often, someone finds a 2000 wide AM in their change. Every so often, a kid discovers a double die while sorting coins with their grandfather. Every so often, a collector submits a coin to a grading service and learns it's a top pop example, the highest graded known. These small moments become big stories. They circulate through the community like urban legends, except they're real. And they reinforce the idea that numismatics is not a dead art. It's living, breathing, evolving. It's driven by curiosity and kept alive by community. Even as society moves further into digital payments, the appeal of physical coins persists. Crypto may be the future of currency, but it's not tangible. You can't hold it. You can't pass it down. You can't frame it or photograph it under a microscope. The penny, by contrast, exists. You can feel its weight. You can hear its ring when dropped. You can see the wear and polish of time. And for all its simplicity, it contains within it a complexity of art, history, and economics. The 2000 Lincoln cent may never be worth $231 million. But it's worth something else. It's worth the wonder it inspires. It's worth the journey it begins. It's worth the memory of discovering something unusual in a pile of the ordinary. And for collectors and believers alike, that's more than enough. There's something uniquely poetic about the notion that the most accessible coin in America might also be the one most misunderstood. For the average person, a penny is just that, almost disposable. It accumulates in pockets, hides in glove compartments, collects dust in bowls, and rattles between couch cushions. It's the coin people often decline when offered in change, the one they're least likely to bend down and pick up from the sidewalk. And yet, within that unassuming copper surface lies the full weight of a century of national identity, design evolution, and minting discipline. The 2000 Lincoln cent represents a perfect example of how a coin can simultaneously be seen as worthless and priceless depending on how it is viewed, handled, preserved, or perceived. Many people unfamiliar with numismatics don't realize that every year, the U.S. Mint deals with microscopic variables in its production process. The life cycle of a die, the engraved metal tool that imprints designs onto coins, is finite. Dies degrade over time, develop cracks, get polished, replaced, or sometimes misused. Early die states often yield sharper, cleaner impressions. Late die states can introduce anomalies, doubling, or even cuds where chunks of the die break off, leaving blank raised areas on the struck coin. These minute imperfections are not design features. They're signs of wear, fatigue, and time. And yet, paradoxically, collectors value these quirks. Some pursue coins with retained interior die breaks, clash marks, or die polishing lines because these small deviations add uniqueness to mass production. The 2000 Lincoln cent exists across countless die pairings and die states. Some dies were swapped midway through minting. Some were reused from late 1999. Some were inadvertently mixed from proof or experimental dies, giving rise to varieties like the 2000 wide AM reverse. A few others show minor doubling on letters or numbers, not dramatic enough to be recognized as a major double die, but enough to spark conversation. The subtlety of these anomalies makes them fascinating to specialists. With high-powered microscopes, a dedicated collector can spend hours comparing coins from the same year, hunting for new diagnostics that may one day be recognized as official varieties. At the heart of this process is a deep faith in discovery, a belief that not everything has been catalogued yet. That maybe your penny, pulled from a forgotten roll in a desk drawer, is different. That's the engine that drives speculative collecting. And with modern access to online resources, population reports, and digital marketplaces, the knowledge gap that once separated novice from expert is narrower than ever. Anyone, with enough patience, can become a discoverer. Anyone can be the first to spot a pattern. The influence of population reports, data published by third-party grading companies showing how many coins of each type have been submitted and at what grade, is profound. These numbers impact perceived rarity. If a 2000 wide AM cent has only a handful of certified examples in MS67 or higher, collectors recognize that as a scarcity worth chasing. But this system is not without flaws. Some coins are underrepresented simply because collectors haven't submitted them yet. Others may be sitting in private collections, raw and ungraded, hidden from the formal data. This results in what numismatists call artificial rarity, when a coin appears scarce in certified condition but may be more common in the wild. This dance between perception and reality has always haunted the coin market. The narrative surrounding a coin often influences its price more than its actual rarity. Stories sell coins. A penny that made headlines because someone found one in a cereal box becomes more intriguing than one with an obscure but dramatic mint error. A story about $1 million penny, even if false, drives more market traffic than an academically verified discovery buried in a numismatic journal. It's not just about facts, it's about attention. And attention has its own economy. That attention also fuels behaviors like hoarding. When word spreads, true or not, that a coin may be worth hundreds or thousands, people begin pulling them from circulation en masse. Rolls vanish from banks. Jars get dumped out. The remaining coins become less available in the wild, which paradoxically increases their mystique. Even if no one finds anything valuable, the act of searching creates engagement. People feel they're participating in something secret, something ancient. It taps into the same instinct that drove gold rushes, lottery fever, and treasure maps, the belief that fortune might be hiding in plain sight. In many ways, this makes coin collecting one of the last analog treasure hunts in the digital age. There's no app that will tell you if a penny is rare just by looking at it. You need eyes. You need tools. You need time. You need patience. And most of all, you need to care. This level of engagement is what elevates coins like the 2000 Lincoln cent above their face value. It's not that the metal is worth anything close to $231 million. It's that someone cared enough to ask if it might be. That question, absurd as it may be on the surface, contains a quiet reverence for possibility. Even more so, it reflects a deeply human impulse to reimagine value. In a world governed by markets, inflation, and monetary systems, coins remind us that currency isn't just about economics, it's about belief. We assign value not just because something is made of gold or silver, but because it carries meaning. The penny is a perfect example. It has been debased, devalued, threatened with extinction, and mocked. And yet it endures, because people continue to find meaning in it. For collectors, each coin is a relic. Each ding, scratch, or lusterless surface tells a story. Maybe this penny rode in someone's wallet for a decade. Maybe it was dropped outside a courthouse on election day. Maybe it sat in a military boot in a foreign country. Or maybe it was sealed, untouched, in a roll from the mint, waiting 2 decades for someone to break it open and discover an unexpected gem inside. Every possibility adds narrative weight to an object of mere monetary cent value. And sometimes that weight transforms the coin entirely. There are those who specialize only in mint errors. Their collections look chaotic: off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, uniface coins, clips, die caps, and struck-throughs. They seek not perfection, but deviation. A 2000 Lincoln cent with a ragged clip or a retained struck-through grease error may be worth far more to these specialists than a perfect example in mint-red condition. To them, the flaw is the feature. And that inversion of value, where error becomes treasure, is one of the most poetic parts of numismatics. The question of whether a 2000 penny could truly be worth millions will never fully go away. The number itself, $231 million, is absurd. But it lingers because it's emblematic of something larger than price. It's a dream. A dream that value may be lurking under the surface. That worth isn't always obvious. That sometimes, in the most ordinary places, be it your couch cushions, your change tray, or the palm of your hand, you might be holding something extraordinary, and perhaps, in the end, that's the real power of the 2000 Lincoln cent. It reminds us to look closer. To pay attention. To question the obvious. Because hidden in plain sight, among billions of copies, might be the one coin that changes everything. Or maybe not. But the fact that we continue to wonder, continue to hope, that speaks volumes. And so we return to the humble 2000 Lincoln cent, a coin minted by the billions, yet still surrounded by more mystery and speculation than some of the rarest artifacts of antiquity. Its legend is not based in rarity alone but in possibility, in the space between what is known and what could still be discovered. The coin has become a case study in how human beings construct value around objects. Not just for what they are made of, but for what they represent, what they might contain, and how they make us feel when we find them unexpectedly in the palm of our hand. For the U.S. Mint, the Lincoln cent is part of a legacy now more than a century old. Introduced in 1909 to mark the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, the coin broke new ground by featuring a real person on American circulating currency for the first time. Until then, allegorical figures dominated U.S. coinage: Lady Liberty, eagles, stars, wreaths. But Lincoln was different. He was real. He was known. He was loved. And placing his image on the smallest denomination gave weight to the everyday. It told Americans that greatness could be honored even in the smallest of things. Over the decades, the coin has undergone transformations. The original wheat ears reverse was replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design, which stayed until 2008. Then came the Lincoln Bicentennial Cents of 2009, with 4 unique reverse designs depicting different chapters of Lincoln's life. And in 2010, the Shield Cent debuted, marking a new visual identity for the penny moving forward. But through all these changes, the obverse portrait, the dignified right-facing profile of Lincoln, has remained a constant. A reminder of endurance, of principle, of legacy. The 2000 Lincoln Cent belongs to that final chapter of the Memorial Reverse era. It represents a bookend to decades of continuity. The design is familiar to millions. And yet, in its final years, the mint was already quietly modernizing. Dies were being produced with computer-assisted engraving. Presses were being upgraded. Quality control processes were more sophisticated. It was an era of transition, where analog tradition met digital precision. In this hybrid moment, a few unusual coins escaped into the wild. Not fakes. Not counterfeits. But genuine government-issued anomalies. The 2000 Wide AM was one of those. A mint-state slip-up that defied intention. And because of it, the year 2000 stands out in the numismatic timeline. What makes this even more fascinating is the mint's historic reluctance to openly acknowledge every error or variety. Sometimes, internal records don't reveal the whole story. Sometimes, even employees at the mint are unaware that a proof die was used improperly or that a certain number of experimental planchets were struck and released. This institutional silence, often intended to preserve the mint's credibility, accidentally fuels the mystique. Collectors begin speculating. Why did this happen? How many escaped? Was it deliberate? These questions become part of the chase. And because answers are rarely concrete, the unknown itself becomes part of the value. There's also a psychological element at work that's harder to quantify. Humans are designed to detect patterns. We crave symmetry, repetition, and difference. Our eyes naturally fixate on anomalies. When we look at a coin and see that the spacing between 2 letters is slightly wider, or that a number seems bolder, we immediately assume significance. Sometimes, it's just a trick of the eye. Other times, it's a gateway into genuine discovery. Either way, our pattern-seeking brains attach meaning to the visual variance. This neurological tendency is what powers much of the coin-collecting hobby. A normal coin becomes suspiciously interesting. An interesting coin becomes collectible. A collectible coin becomes valuable. And all of it starts with noticing something that most people would never see. It's also worth considering the role that time plays in creating value. What is common today may not remain common forever. Billions of 2000 Lincoln cents were minted. But how many remain unspent? How many have been lost, melted, corroded, or destroyed? How many have been tossed aside in parking lots or swept into landfills? Attrition is a slow but powerful force. Over the decades, the actual number of pristine examples, especially of the rare varieties, shrinks. Supply decreases. Awareness increases. Demand surges. And slowly, the market transforms. Coins once dismissed as too modern or too abundant become prized, because time has thinned the herd. This is how value matures. Not in months, but in decades. This is why long-term collectors emphasize patience. Building a coin collection isn't about flipping fast or chasing every rumor. It's about stewardship. About curating a set that tells a story. A collection of Lincoln cents from 1909 to present reveals more than design trends, it reveals American history. Wars, economic upheaval, inflation, political change, cultural evolution, all of it shows up subtly in the mint marks, the compositions, the quantities. A steel cent from 1943 speaks of wartime shortages. A copper 1982 speaks of monetary reform. A wide AM from 2000 speaks of the delicate intersection between human error and mechanical precision. Each coin is a microhistory, and yet, even with all this weight behind it, the coin is still worth 1 cent in most eyes. It buys almost nothing. It's almost not worth picking up. And this dissonance, that something can be so meaningless and yet so meaningful, is part of its strange power. The penny invites us to look again. To reconsider assumptions. To find the remarkable inside the routine. It's easy to be impressed by a gold coin or a silver dollar. But to be impressed by a penny? That takes vision. In the hands of a skilled collector, even a single cent becomes a chapter of a story, a potential anomaly, or a mystery to unravel. Is it a proof strike? A transitional die? A hidden double die not yet catalogued? Could this be the next variety to enter the books? These are the questions that turn a simple moment of examination into hours of research. Into calls to grading services. Into magnified comparisons with reference photos. It's not work. It's a thrill. And that thrill, repeated thousands of times across garages, kitchens, basements, and living rooms, forms the quiet heartbeat of the entire coin-collecting world. There's also something deeply communal about it. Numismatics isn't a solitary pursuit. For every collector, there are mentors, online friends, sellers, graders, historians, and hobbyists sharing stories and finds. One person's wide AM discovery might help someone else find theirs. Forums are filled with side-by-side images, die marker discussions, and diagnostic comparisons. People write essays about mint mark position, plating bubbles, or die wear patterns, all because a penny invited them to look closer. The 2000 Lincoln cent is more than a coin. It's a conversation. In that conversation, even myths like the $231 million rumor have their place. While exaggerated, these claims open the door for curiosity. A sensational headline brings someone in, but careful study helps them stay. Myths evolve into questions. Questions evolve into knowledge. Knowledge builds collections. And collections, over time, shape history. This is the alchemy of attention. The coin doesn't change, but how we see it does.